just behind me here is the main Cairn T. This is the famous cairn with all the beautiful carvings in it on the interior chamber. It's aligned just south of east, just a fraction off east, but it does allow the sun to come in on the equinox, and because of that slight orientation difference, it lights up certain areas at the very back of the back chamber. There was charred remains were found in there, certain grave goods, there was chalk balls, perfectly spherical balls that were found, which could have been part of, and they fit in actually to the cut marks inside the chamber, so that's quite odd in itself. You've also got just behind me here the hag's chair. Now this is quite famous. It's got legends associated with it, where the witch or whoever she was would bring an apron full of stones and bounce from one hilltop to the other and drop the stones where these cairns are now placed. At the final one, she broke her neck and she died, and that was the end of her. So there's different variations on that story, but there's also stories about another witch in more recent years who used to frequent this place, and it almost like carried on the tradition. And so this is an energy spot. We tested this when I was here with Glenn and Cameron and Broughton. This is a very powerful spot. There's earth energy here, there's underground water, there's a lot going on at this particular site, in this particular area we're standing in now. So we're just entering Loughcrew chamber, and already on the way in we can see carvings all around everywhere we're looking. It's amazing. So I'm just going further into the chamber. We've already seen some carvings on the way in. I've got a torch here with me. See, there's cut marks, carvings all over this side as well, and this side. It's entirely covered, like the whole place. Here we're inside the main chamber. Can't really see too much in here. It's difficult to see anything. But this at the back here, this is where the equinox sun shines onto the stones. We have two squares form of these two kind of solar symbols. And I was here in 2007 and witnessed the actual event happening. This has been happening here for thousands of years, potentially 5,000 years. A classic corbelled roof coming down into this megalithic chamber. That's the main chamber at the back, the western edge of Cairn T. Here we have another chamber here. You can see this with the lintel on top, much like we see at Fornox. And there's the main entrance coming in there where the sun shines down. What an amazing place, and we've got it all to ourselves. So we're just inside Loughcrew. We're here in late August 2016, so we're not getting anything like the equinox sunlight. We're at least a month away from that. But during sunrise, it's this chamber behind me where the sun beams into and creates this square shape that hits the sun symbols on the back of the wall and moves across during the morning of both the equinoxes. So this is most certainly aligned to that, much like Nouth probably is, although that's been destroyed, so you can't really test it out anymore. With Newgrange we have the alignment with the winter solstice sunrise, and so yeah, you find that all these sites across the Boyne Valley part of Ireland are most certainly astronomical temples, and also burial places as well, that date back to at least 5,000 years. So these are extremely ancient. This hasn't been excavated too much. There's not much been done here. It's not been damaged. There's a few bits of concrete here and there, unlike Newgrange, which has been Nouth, which has been completely rebuilt from the ground up. In all the different side chambers here, you can see further examples of the rock art all the way down. See the solar symbols there and the carvings. And there's like 3 chambers, one at the back here. This is the famous one. I'm just shining the light on one of the sun symbols now, where the equinox sunrise hits. And there's the other one there. We have other symbols here, which look like some kind of leaves. This is something that JJ's been researching. Another solar symbol down there. And the connections here that JJ's worked out are very strongly suggesting that it's almost the same symbology as Winnemucca, which he's going to talk about on camera in a moment.
There are a lot more carvings than I thought were here, and a lot more matches to the American Winnemucca site, which is dated to over 14,000 years old. And this site being estimated at 5,000 plus years old is quite amazing, because the patterns aren't simple, they're complex. So the chance of so many similar carvings being in 2 locations, in such small locations, is almost impossible unless there was global communication of some sort, which is really amazing. The back wall has the same circle within a circle with a spooned out center, which is on the actual equinox stone. But here we have also a flower within a lighter circle. But this isn't stemmed into the curved actual leaves, it's just stretched out in one long mark with the center. And here we have like the half rainbow, which is on the equinox stone, but every one of the symbols that's carved on this stone in the left side little enclosure is at a smaller level and just a little bit different places, which is quite strange because that could have important symbolic meaning if it's studied correctly. Like here is a beautiful, look at this, you can see it, this flower, which is really pretty, so I'm going to take a
So we've just been in there and found there's carvings all over the place, on the ceilings, on all the walls, even on tops of some of the stones, and even in this cairn here we're looking at here, Cairn L I believe, the same thing, there's more carvings here. Obviously the tops are being removed from this one in particular, and all we're left really is the sort of base, so you can walk upright into it and sort of look down at the carvings. Much smaller, but Cairn T you can see from all over the landscape. It's just almost every direction, it just stands out like a great mound, like a toot site, like a kind of focal point of the entire complex and of the entire Boyne Valley really. It's like you get the same with Knowth and Newgrange, they kind of stand out and you can see them from miles around. So there's this network of sites connecting some very, very important places, all linked with astronomy. So this in front of me is Cairn U. This is just next to the main Cairn T. It's very beautifully, it's got stones all around the edge, around the perimeter. It's got 3 chambers, much like we find in the main Cairn T. And then there's beautiful carvings all around it. And you can see examples just from here even. Here's the serpent, which is very similar to the kind of serpent we find carved at sites in Peru. There's cut marks on this stone as well, and if we just climb down very carefully, we can see that on the same stone that we have the serpent carvings, we find all these beautiful spiral carvings as well. So this is very similar iconography that we find in Newgrange, Gavranese, other parts of the world, but mainly here in Ireland, in the Boyne Valley. Just behind me here is Cairn V. This is just outside, just to the right of the front of the main Cairn T. So it's got 30 stones around it, still in situ. It's about 31.5 feet across. I'm not sure the orientation because it's got like, it looks like closures and openings on both ends. So it could be southeast, could be northwest. I'm not sure, but it's just an interesting addition, one of many obviously here. Just trying to give you the heads up on what we're actually looking at here at Loughcrew. Cairn S is also noted, we'll just have a little walk around here, for its beautiful curbstones all the way around it. You can just see some of these here with Cairn T in the background. And this is one of the best preserved ones, even though obviously the top's been taken off when they were excavating it. But yeah, it's just good to see much of this still exists. Being up here on the hilltop probably keeps it fairly safe. What's interesting about this is that it's oriented kind of to the northwest, and so potentially, it's 290 degrees, it's potentially roughly summer solstice sunset. Just inside Cairn S, and you can see these beautiful carvings just on this rock here, and there's just one chamber really going off to this side, going off to the left. It's oriented, if you come in, the sun coming in there, it's coming in northwest, so that would be the summer solstice sunset, more or less, and that would probably hit the back of the chamber somewhere here, although you can't really see any carvings of what it would hit. So not like in Cairn T behind us, which is highly dramatic with the equinox sunrise. So from back here we can see Cairn S in the foreground with Cairn T in the background, and so it's almost like it is oriented, even though it's northwest, to just the main monument behind it. So I find that very intriguing, because it's almost like the smaller mounds, smaller grave areas are kind of orienting themselves to the main one, and this one you can see from miles around. We saw it from like 5 miles away when we were driving in here, so we know this was a prominent site, and whoever was buried in there, the charcoal remains that were found, were very, very important people. Probably the people who taught the astronomy, who taught the geomancy, who taught about the fertility of the landscape. And although it's became known as kind of the witches or the hags site, actually it's probably a high level elite priesthood here who are working with these sites and building all these cairns. And we've just got a few examples we're looking at today which are very, very impressive. It was supposedly at Loughcrew where Michael Poinder, he spoke about 2 stone spheres being found. One was made of granite and the other one was made of more like limestone, and he believes these were had magnetic properties which were then worked with by the ancients, similar to the stone balls we find in Ireland, in Scotland, which are much more geometric, have different mathematical formulas and so on and so forth. So yeah, there's a lot going on here, and where they were found exactly I'm not sure. It could be any one of these cairns stretching over a couple of miles, but it's interesting that they could be the ones. There's also been chalk balls found, actually, very similar size. They could be the ones that they were placed somehow in the cut marks. We do have some cut marks here in some of the mounds. So just over on the hill in the distance there, this is where Cairn X is, and it's on the slopes of Patrickstown. And apparently it's got one of the most accomplished pieces of rock art in all of Ireland. So we can't go over there, it's on private land, it's all covered up, locked up, all that kind of stuff. It's only this one we can go on, unfortunately, but this is what it looks like. You can see like it's a beautiful design, sun rays, and it's just quite remarkable. Over on this hill over here, these 2 hills in the distance, there's 2 there. The one on the left, we have Cairn M on it, and the one on the right we have lots of cairns. It's called Cairn West. We're currently on Cairn East, where Cairn T stands behind us. But over there, there's quite a number of mounds. And Cairn L is very interesting. It almost looks like the same style as Bellas Nap, of all places. You can see an image of it here. And so this is intriguing. I'd love to get over there, but they tell us it's on private land, etc, etc. So we're not going to be able to do too much there right now. And this just shows you the map of the whole area, including Patrickstown, including Cairn East in the middle where we are now, Cairn M on the right there, and also Cairn West. So a lot going on up on the hills of Loughcrew. I'm just blown away by this Loughcrew site. It's very impressive, beautiful location. On the hills over in that direction, we have more mounds. Behind us over here, there's more mounds, more cairns. Everywhere you look, all these hilltops are important, sacred areas for astronomy, for geomancy, for giving the laws of the land, and also where these great people were eventually buried.